So I'm about to turn 21, and although I'm happy with the decisions I've made and where I've gotten today, the truth is I think I messed up a ton during my teenage years. So in this video, I'm going over 21 life lessons for my 18-year-old self that if I would have followed, would have made college way less stressful, way easier, and just overall a much happier experience. So yeah, let's get started. Number 1, stop copying what everyone else around you is doing. When you're in high school or college, you're gonna be tempted to look around at the people around you to try to figure out what you should be doing. But the more that I think about it, the more I realize those people are the worst people to take advice from. The truth is, teenagers make teenage level decisions. Even though we know that when you're like 18, 19, 20, you're still gonna look around you and try to copy what people are doing consciously and subconsciously. I remember when I was trying to figure out like what job I wanted in college, I would ask like everybody in my fraternity like what they were doing, when in reality, I should have just looked at what I wanted to do and made a decision for myself. Unless you actually like look up to somebody or want to be where they are, don't just follow people because they're around you. Even though you might think that people around you know what they're doing, nobody has a clue. So don't get social pressured into just copying your friends or doing whatever they want to do, whether it's career, whether it's what they're doing with clubs, whether it's what they're doing with free time, or any of that. Number 2, don't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be. Oftentimes it can be really, really difficult to separate people from their advice. One of the most classic examples that you're going to probably experience at some point when you're in high school or college is your parents. One thing that I realized is that as much as my parents wanted to help me and support me, they didn't understand what I wanted. And so when I used to ask people for advice, I'd basically be looking to people who knew just as little, if not less, about what I actually wanted. And as a result, they'd really just give the advice that they would do as opposed to what is really best for me. Instead of taking a convenience sample, try to find people who are a few years ahead of you doing what you want to do and take advice from them. Number 3, stop worrying about what people who don't care about you think about you. I'm very insecure. I care a lot about what other people think about me, especially because I make videos and make content and post shit online for a living. So instead of saying just don't care about what anyone thinks of you, because you should care about what some people think about you, only care about the people who you respect. A lot of people are going to talk shit about you, especially online, or bring you down, not because they actually care about you, but just because they have problems and they don't have as much going for them as they'd want to. 99% of the people who you talk to in high school and you talk to in college, you won't see ever again. So stop living your life for other people and just post the story that you found funny, post the video that you think is good, and then the people who want to talk shit about you, then they surface and you'll know who actually cares about you and who's just there for convenience. Number 4, decide what 1 or 2 classes matter and ignore the rest. I remember when I was in college, I think 80% probably of the classes that I took were totally irrelevant. The information in them will not matter to my life. And I don't say that to be blunt, but because almost everybody I know says the exact same thing. So what I recommend you do is find the classes that you actually care about, figure out what you need to learn, focus on learning that and actually retaining that. And on the rest of stuff, just make sure you get by. I'm not saying to be a bum or neglect your classes or anything like that, but think more about what the grades are for and then make a decision about how hard you're going to work. This might be bad advice, but this is the advice I would give to myself. Number 5, pick something that takes 6 months to complete and start it. I remember when I was younger, I felt like my life was very boring. Like people around me had more going for them. And I think part of that is just not true. But the other part of it was just the fact that I wasn't actually doing that many things. And if you've ever felt like your life is boring, maybe it's just because you're only doing things that take a day to complete. The minute I started to build up my YouTube channel and I started to build up my business and I started to work on fitness, all of a sudden my life becomes more interesting. I'm not saying you have to go all out and build a business, but maybe start by picking up some sort of physical activity or going to a club that you kind of had interest in, but just never tried out. Very few people think about what they should be doing next week, even less think about what they should be doing in a few months. So if you can just expand the time that you think about and start working towards things that take more than just a night or a week to do, all of a sudden your life's going to get much more interesting, much more enjoyable, and you're going to have way more going for you. Number 6, invite your friends to do stuff. This is something that I had to learn the hard way. I've always been the person that just waits to get invited. And as I got through high school and college, I started to wonder why I didn't have anything to do on a Friday night. And the more I got to thinking, the more I realized I was waiting for people to invite me to go do something. I think you could probably relate to this. You get invited to do stuff way more than you invite other people to do stuff. When you don't invite your friends to do things, naturally, people aren't going to want to invite you back. So even if it's little things, like if you're doing something alone and it doesn't need to be alone, invite your friend to go work out with you. Invite somebody to go get food with you. Instead of studying alone, invite somebody to go study with you. Yeah, it's not going to be as productive, but the little bit of productivity loss in the grand scheme of things is going to be way less than the actual benefit of doing things with people and actually enjoying yourself while you do it. So make an effort to like organize simple things. You'd be surprised at how many people will just say yes and be happy that you put something together. Number 7, use social media and try not to let social media use you. I remember when I was younger, I built up the worst habits of just constantly checking my phone, having like the ghost finger of opening my phone and checking a text before I know it, I'm on Instagram. And honestly, I just think it's because nobody told me how addicting social media apps can be. But I think if you've never gone on a phone detox where you don't check your phone all day until the end of the day, your dopamine receptors and your attention is just gonna be fried. So if you can, curb your social media usage, especially on the more shallow apps, I would call them, and limit your social media use just to productive search-based things. Only use it when you need to go on it. Try not to use it as a distractor, especially if you have things that you actually need to do. Number 8, if there's work you can do in public, work in public. Most of the time, the thought of doing things is way worse than the actual thing itself when you do it. If you're getting overwhelmed about writing a paper or having to do something that you don't want to do, one of the easiest ways to get over it is to just go somewhere else, go to a coffee shop, go to a library, and just get moving. Once you're out of your room and in somewhere where you're supposed to be working, it just becomes so much easier to do the work. So instead of working alone in your room all day, if there's work you can do in public, do it in public. Number 9, winners commit to the inputs, losers wish for the outputs. Now, this is something that I'm fully stealing from Alex Hormozi, but it basically applies to anything that you probably want. I think most people can relate. We all want very similar things. We want to be successful, we want a lot of money, etc., etc. But the difference between the people who actually get those things and the people who just want them is the actual actions you take. So instead of thinking about what things you want, I mean, that's a good step 1. Step 2 is think about what actions would actually cause those things. Plus, I think one of the biggest barriers to actually getting what you want is having clarity on how to get there. So once you actually know exactly what you have to do, you can do it, and then the battle is just commit to doing it consistently. And if you can commit to that input, you're gonna have way more success. Number 10, get an iPad. Look, I'm not organized. I hate taking notes. I hate writing. Carrying around 6 different notebooks is not worth it. And overall, just having an iPad is so nice. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Get the cheapest one. I got the cheapest one. This thing is the reason I got through most of my classes. It's so nice. You can share notes. Just trust me, get one. I'll have a link to the one that I got down below. So worth it. Just make the investment and you'll be thankful you did later. Number 11, write more. Once again, I hate writing. I hate taking notes. But what I've realized is that writing is like the best way to de-stress. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed, you feel like you have too much to do, you don't know where to start, it's going to happen. And I think when that happens to a lot of us, we just break down, we push it off, when literally just taking whatever you're stressed about or taking whatever you're thinking about and putting it on paper, you will notice stressful things become way less stressful. Writing is focused thinking. And when you consolidate your thoughts and you're clear on what you want to do, the stress of whatever it is that you have to do, it just goes away. So write more. You don't have to do it every day, but get in the habit of doing it. It's a great habit. Number 12, pay attention to your posture. Now, I'm not just talking about like sitting with your shoulders back. That's definitely important. You're probably sick of hearing people tell you to do that. One thing though that I have improved a lot recently is my jaw posture. Now, I know that might sound stupid, but when I was going into my first year in college and like senior year of high school, I had terrible mouth breathing. I was always congested. I feel like my jawline wasn't very sharp, and I'm still hoping my genetics come through there. But if you've ever heard of mewing or fixing your jaw posture, it is something you should absolutely do. If you want to improve your jaw posture, you want to breathe better, you want to have better like oral hygiene and like health like that, there are tons of benefits. Just close your mouth, swallow, and then hold your tongue in the position that it's in after you swallow and breathe through your nose. When I started nose breathing and like holding my jaw tight throughout the day and not mouth breathing and all that, my jaw posture got way better. My actual jaw line improved a lot. It's weird, but seriously, try it. Breathe through your nose, hold your jaw like in place instead of just like mouth breathing all the time, especially when you sleep too, and you'll probably notice some results. Number 13, never start from scratch. I think the school system gets you in the habit of thinking copying or sharing notes is bad, when in reality, college and just life is a team effort. If you're starting something from scratch, you are probably making a mistake. Like if I ever had a project or ever I had to make slides or anything like that, you better believe like I'm going online and finding a mock-up, a template, something similar before I begin working on mine. So seriously, do not do anything from scratch. Not only will it save you time, but honestly, your final work, if you ever submit something, will probably be better. Because if you can just take something that's good and put your own twist on it, it's usually way better than trying to come up with a fresh idea and like build it from the ground up. Number 14, give with no expectation of anything in return. The relationships that are good in your life are not going to be transactional relationships. So start getting in the habit of just doing nice things for people. And if you could do that for an extended period of time, people will like you. And when you need help, anybody you ask is going to go out of their way to pay it back. Number 15, go to bed earlier than your friends. This goes back to like tip number 1, but when you're in college, there are going to be some nights where you're going to have to stay out late, but by and large, people's habits around you are just not going to be very good when it comes to sleep, hygiene, productivity, literally just being an adult. So look around, see when your friends are going to bed, and try to like go to bed an hour before them. Get in the habit of this. Just go to bed early and you'll be happier. Number 16, look good every time you leave the house. When you go out in public, and especially because you're going to be meeting a lot of people for the first time when you're younger, people are going to judge you based on how you look. So make it an effort to just every time you leave to look good, to have clothes that fit you, to have showered. You never know who you're gonna meet during the day, and it's less about like the individual day itself, but more so about the habit of having this long term. People are gonna view you better. You're gonna feel more confident. Just get in the habit of like taking care of yourself, looking good every time you leave. Trust me on this one. Number 17, start a skincare routine. For the longest time, I thought skin was just totally based on genetics, just totally based on if you're lucky, if you have acne or not, when in reality, it is like 20% genetics and like 80% is in your control. There are 3 things you need. 1, you need some sort of like exfoliant or like facial cleanser with salicylic acid. This will help with acne. This will help clean your face, like reset it, get like any oil, all that stuff off. You want some sort of moisturizer. I use an AM and a PM. You could just use one. And you need a retinol or retinoid. Dermatologist recommended. Basically, it just fights acne. This is one thing that like works better and better over time. It's going to take a while to set in, but it's worth it. It will seriously improve your skin. Start a skincare routine. If you haven't yet, there's literally no reason you shouldn't. Just do it. Number 18, be the one to ask for a photo. You won't realize it in the moment, but there are so many places that you will go where you're going to think, I wish I had a picture, or I wish I had something from when we did this. Not just for like social media and stuff, but just to have. Be the person that asks for a photo. You might think like you're being annoying, but most times people are going to be happy that you actually asked. Photos are good to have. So if you're not like somebody who usually takes them, get in the habit of being the one that actually asks for the photo. And for how little effort it actually takes, just take more pictures. Number 19, create a little bit every morning. This is one of the only habits that I've really stuck to throughout all my years of college and even to this day. First thing in the morning, whatever it is, do the hardest creative tasks first thing, because as the day goes on, things are going to get busier. You're going to get distracted. You're going to want to go be able to do things. And if you can start every day having the hardest thing done, having the most creative thing done, your days just become so much easier. This has been one of the best things for my productivity, for getting stuff done, and also just for having less stress. So if you're somebody who wakes up and goes straight on your phone, kick that as quick as you can and create a little bit like first thing right when you wake up. Number 20, start running. This is not so much literal. I mean, you can start running if you want. I recently did. But basically for me, running was something that for the longest time, I was just like, I'm not the type of person that runs. I like lifting. I like going to the gym. But for whatever reason, I recently started running and I realized how much like I actually enjoy it. And it's so stupid, but I just didn't do it because I like claimed that I wasn't somebody who likes running. Anything you say, I'm not the type of person to do that, or I can never see myself doing that. Try it one time. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. But like, if you're not going to do it when you're like a teenager, when are you going to do it? So start doing whatever the thing is that you've like kind of wanted to do for a while. And if you don't want to continue doing it, you don't have to, but odds are you're probably going to like it. 21, focus on minimalism. When you're young, you're going to be obsessed with a lot of the shiny objects. You're going to want material things. You're going to want whatever the new thing is. And maybe you just have to live it for yourself. Maybe you just have to get the thing to realize that the thing didn't matter. The things that actually matter, that I like really still value, are experiences, are relationships, are connections, and the actual like objects that I have. As much as you might care about it, nobody really does. When it comes to tech, like, you don't need the nicest stuff. You're probably going to want to get the new thing. Just whenever you do, think about whether or not you actually need it. Think about whether you'd actually use it for another 6 to 12 months. And focus more on minimalism, focus more on the actual like experiences, the stuff that matters, than the flashy material things, because the people who like care about that stuff are not people you want to be around anyways, and it just, at the end of the day, it won't matter. It's fine to have some of that stuff, but for the most part, focus on minimalism and you'll just be way happier. Okay, so I know that was a lot. That was too much. Save this video for later, but if you can, pick at least 1 or 2 of these things, actually try them out, and let me know which one actually stuck with you, because honestly, I had no clue what I was doing in college, and even if you just pick 1 or 2 of these things, I guarantee they're gonna make your experience so much better. If you wanna see more stuff like this, connect with me on Instagram and Twitter, whichever one you use, give me a follow. I've been posting on both almost daily, and a lot of what I've been posting on YouTube actually comes from Twitter and Instagram ideas, so if you wanna see stuff first, definitely go check those out. Otherwise, that was all I've got for this one. That was a lot. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace, guys.